We are a student-founded nonprofit to spread awareness about both the risks and the solutions of our changing climate. So thank you all for being here today. We're here to promote climate change solutions and learn how we can influence new technology to communicate those solutions to the public. Today we present to you Aneesh from VRNACULARS, and he's going to talk about his project, Sustainable Productivity.
So the first question is, why are we here? What is this challenge? The amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we are releasing into the atmosphere currently stands at about 110 million tons every 24 hours. Now, all of you know what that does. It results in global warming, which here are just a couple of points to show how bad that is. 2017, San Francisco was 106 Fahrenheit. That's the highest all-time temperature in San Francisco. Sydney, 117 Fahrenheit. This was in Kuwait, Oman. It was the highest low temperature ever recorded. And that is 109 Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius. That's the highest low, so imagine what the high was. But here's the really scary part. The North Pole has experienced midwinter heat waves now for 3 years in a row. And in February of 2018, the temperature was 50 Fahrenheit higher than average. Now, what does that do? It's more than just it's uncomfortable or it's unlivable. It starts to impact very finely balanced ecosystems on our planet. For one, it reduces the amount of arable land. For two, it causes more food damage. Because now you have not just food, but infrastructure, right? I mean, you have floods, you have forest fires, you have hurricanes. All of those have increased in frequency and intensity. And I can give you a million examples of that, but you already know that. Crop yields are declining. For every degree of Celsius warming, for certain crops, you lose 3, 4, 5% of yield. And the food itself, the nutrition value of the food itself reduces. Now, I can't explain why, but it does. Okay, what else is going on? Water. By 2025, half, that's right, 50% of the world's population is going to be living in water-stressed areas. Air. 92% of the world's population lives in areas where air pollution exceeds safe limits. Animals and nature are getting impacted. The Great Barrier Reef is bleaching at a very rapid pace. 90% of the Great Barrier Reef potentially could face coral bleaching if ocean temperatures continue to rise as they have. So it's not just heat, it's way more than that. It's food, it's water, it's health hazards, social and political unrest, and ecosystem devastation. All of that is on the line. You also know that there is a Paris Convention. We're trying to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius. And that the IPCC most recently issued a report saying that it might be better for us to think about trying to restrict warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Because the difference between 1.5 and 2 is very, very significant. But in order to do that, they also said that we would have to cut the current emissions by 45%. And they said that we could potentially hit the 1.5 Celsius threshold by 2030. That's 11 years from now. Okay, well that's one side of the equation. But what's happening on the other side of the equation? The population of the planet continues to grow. In that same period, between now and 2030, we are going to add about 800 million people to the planet. By 2050, we will add about 2 billion people to the planet. That causes stress for resources. You need more food, you need more energy, you need more infrastructure. So we have to reduce emissions by somewhere between 25 to 45%, while supporting the needs of another 2 billion people. So that, in a nutshell, is the sustainable productivity challenge. So, how can we solve it? It is solvable, and that's the great news. But here's an interesting stat for you. What do you think the percent of adults in the US is who think that global warming is happening? Let's take a guess. 75? 75? Anybody else? That's pretty close, 70. What is the percentage of adults in the US who think global warming will harm them personally? Take a wild guess. 40? Who said 40? You said 20? 30. 30? 40%? Who said 40? Absolutely right. 40%. Right? That is the heart of the problem. People know it's a problem. They're willing to accept that it's getting hotter, there's more fires, there's more floods. You watch the news, you see it. But is it going to impact you personally? 30-point drop. Why? Because it's too abstract. It's too huge. It's too big for me to do anything about it. It's just like there's something that's out there that's going to happen in 2050. Therefore, here's our approach to this problem. Step one, break it into little tangible bits. Cars and trucks, okay, I can dimensionalize that. That's something I can do something about today. Food waste, I can understand that. That's not like, some big abstract, huge thing. You're wasting food. Duh. That's it. That's the issue. Meat and dairy. Livestock farming generates emissions. Simple as that. Heating and cooling. Energy consumption in your house. Heating and cooling is the biggest part of that. Water consumption. And recycling. So, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces here that we can really start to focus on individually. Step 2, create an emotional connection. There's tons of data. But are you emotionally vested? So step 2 is you have to dimensionalize these facts in a way that it creates an emotional response. So let me give you some examples. I can show you this chart. That's from NASA. That chart shows you carbon, CO2 levels in the atmosphere over the last 400,000 years. Right? And you notice, yeah, it's spiky, sure. But for the last 650,000 years, it's never, ever crossed 300 parts per million. Ever in 650,000 years. Look at the last 50. It's a straight line from 300 to 400. Straight up. And what is that time span? It's infinitesimal compared to 650,000 years. Right? Now, I can show you that chart. Or I could do this. And I'm going to play you a sound clip. Dimensionalize data in a way that creates an emotional response. it's just, you feel it, right? You feel that sound picking up towards the end and how fast it gets. It's the same data, right? But it's a way of creating a response. It's touching one of your senses, right? Now, what we're doing is we're working with Stanford to connect that piece of music to a visual representation. You're going to be on a roller coaster. The curve is the roller coaster, right? But unlike a typical roller coaster, where when you go down, you pick up speed, and you go up, you slow down, this roller coaster is related to the intensity of acceleration of global warming. So you're going to ride this curve, and as you hear the sound increasing, you're going to feel the car accelerate, and you feel like you're just going up vertically and about to like shoot out into outer space, right? And then it comes to a screeching halt, and you look down, and you can kind of see how far we've come in just like the last 30 years or so. Now, so step one was break it into bits. Step two was take data, create an emotional connection with it. Step three is now do something for each of those little bits of problems that you now have a way of dimensionalizing. And the way you do something at scale is through one word: habits. Is there one thing we can think of that almost everybody on this planet does every day? Yes. But how about brushing your teeth? Almost everybody brushes their teeth. It doesn't matter what. You could be in the middle of the Amazon jungle, they still brush their teeth. Why? Can we think of reasons why? I mean, why do you brush your teeth? Give me some reasons. Sorry? I can't hear you. Okay, personal hygiene. Okay. Sorry? Take care of your teeth, right? Sorry? Cavities. So everything I'm hearing is some personal impact. What did we say? 40% of people don't think climate change, global warming is causing personal impact. You brush your teeth every day because you're worried about your teeth. Or it's because somebody taught you to do it. Always taught you to do it, right? From a young age. Or because everybody you know does it. It's not like some unusual thing. You're not different because you brush your teeth, right? And you know the consequence. Nobody wants to go to a dentist. Nobody wants a cavity. We know that consequence. And there is that connection to that pain of sitting in a dentist's chair, right? Well, there's one thing that almost everybody does. Why? Because it's a habit. So we need to get to creating habits. I'll ask you the same question about food waste, right? Do we think about food waste the way we think about brushing our teeth? Is it a habit? Probably not. Right? Can I ask you the same thing about recycling? Yes, we make an effort, right? Some more than others. But is it like you just wake up in the morning and you say, it's reflex, I gotta go brush my teeth? Right? When you see a can, you see paper, you see plastic, you automatically look for a recycling bin. Habit. So 3 steps. Break it into small pieces. Create an emotional connection. And form a habit. And now we understand why VR and AR. Because VR and AR can help you create that emotional connection and dimensionalize the issues the way I talked about it, like with a roller coaster. Okay, so what are we doing? We are creating content in virtual and augmented reality to take you through a room like this, where you will first start at the macro level and view some content there to understand the magnitude of the problem. Then you look at these bite-sized bits, and then you go into every little bite-sized bit. There's a table about food waste. There's a table about shifting diets. There's a table about lifestyle choices. There's an augmented reality carbon counter, which I will show you today. And hopefully, by the time you go through that whole experience, you can come back with a set of things that you commit to doing personally. It doesn't have to be everything. It could be some subset of all of the things that you could potentially do.
Thank you. And what advice would you give students who are trying to initiate unconventional climate action?
Thank you. Great question. So try to avoid the trapdoors that we fall into when we initiate this discussion. Let's take this little bite-sized problem that is low-hanging fruit. Whatever else you may believe, does it make sense to waste 40% of food when you have 40 million hungry people and the food is being wasted for no apparent reason? Appeal to the logic of that conversation. I go back to that stat where 70% think that global warming is happening, but only 40% believe it's going to affect them personally, right? And so there's a whole body of research that's coming out now that says we need to talk about this issue more in personal terms. How does it impact you? The second thing I would say is be active on all fronts. I mean, this is the generation we want to talk to. You are the folks who can create viral events. You are the folks who can get a message across at an exponential speed, right? And change is very slow and change is very hard. Whether you're trying to change the fossil fuel industry or you're trying to create a new habit, it doesn't matter, right? It takes commitment and it takes energy, it takes enthusiasm, and it takes having difficult conversations. And if the third thing I would say is, so going back to the question earlier, somebody asked about how do you have a conversation with somebody who thinks it's a waste of time? Well, the first rule of communication is you have to first form a connection. Otherwise, I'm not even listening. If I'm not listening, there's no conversation. What we're hoping to do with this is to get you in the door by saying this is cool. I don't even know what this app is about, but it is cool because it's, you know, it's augmented reality, it's virtual reality, you're putting me on the surface of the moon or whatever you're doing. It's cool, right? So now I got you listening, hopefully. Then we start having conversations about the actual content, right? So that's the third piece of advice I would give you is really assess whether you've even made a connection, because if you haven't, you know, you first have to find a way to do that.